Hello, Kurt Jackson, retirement income strategist with KJ Financial here with this installment of Your Money Matters. Today, let's talk about our kids, or if your kids are grown, maybe let's talk about your grandkids or future grandkids. So, do you love your kids? How about, do you love your grandkids? It's kind of a ridiculous question, don't you think? Now, why do you think I would ask such a ridiculous question? I mean, don't we all love our kids and our grandkids? Now, look, since you know I'm already in the financial end of things, you got to be thinking, all right, what's he up to? There's got to be something going on. Does that sound about right? So if something happened to you or your spouse, would you want the life that you had planned for your kids and your loved ones to still happen? Now, let's say your kids are grown. If something happened to one of them or their spouse, do you think that they would want the life that they had planned for their family to still happen? Wouldn't you also? Wouldn't you want them to continue the lifestyle that they'd been living? Wouldn't you still want them to have sufficient health insurance? Wouldn't you want your kids or your grandkids to still be able to go to college? And couldn't that list go on and on? So with that in mind, do you think it's fair when one parent dies and there's not enough money left over, creating a situation where the children should lose both parents? That's an interesting question, isn't it? Have you thought about that? So doesn't the parent that's still there have to do all the work and cook and clean and yard work and laundry, do all that both parents were doing? So really, how much parent do you think is left over after they do all of that? Did you know a recent study showed that a stay-at-home parent does 97 hours of work per week, and if they earned the prevailing wage on those 10 different jobs that they're doing those for 97 hours per week, they would make over $100,000 a year. It's a pretty staggering number, isn't it? Did you know that the mom that works full-time still does the equivalent of more than $60,000 of work with the kids and around the house in her hours after work? So do you think after losing a parent, if that family hadn't properly planned, with all of that on the table for one parent to do, would it make sense that the remaining parent doesn't have much time left over to be a parent? Do you want to make sure that if something like that happens to your family or your children or your grandchildren, you want to make sure that everyone's going to be okay financially? Well, wait a minute. Aren't we talking about life insurance here? And isn't life insurance a bad investment? You know, I wish I had $1 for every time someone has said that to me. I mean, I've heard it so many times. If you allow me, I'd like to dig a little deeper into this, into life insurance for a bit. So let me ask you this. If life insurance is such a bad investment, why does the IRS want to keep closing down all the loopholes of life insurance? And why is it considered the #1 tax benefit in the IRS code? If life insurance is such a bad investment, why do the banks own over $140 billion in cash value life insurance? And that they actually had to pass laws preventing banks from buying more life insurance because it's such a solid and beneficial asset. If life insurance is a bad investment, why don't the banks put all of this $140 billion in CDs, money markets, and savings accounts? If that's the place to be, why do they have $140 billion in cash value life insurance? Life insurance is extremely important. Do you realize that there's no Walt Disney without cash value life insurance? There's no McDonald's if Ray Kroc didn't have cash value life insurance? Think about this for a minute. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt had more than $500,000 in cash value life insurance. Do you realize that that's close to $7 million in $7 million bucks in today's dollars? Presidents, owners of banks, more than 50% of managers of mutual funds, presidents of all sorts of companies. GE is one of the biggest buyers of life insurance. Back in 2006, they bought more life insurance than all the rest of the country combined. Jack Welch, former CEO of GE, he's got a wonderful retirement that's based on the cash value life insurance he gets, and he gets it income tax free. And GE's not at all upset about having to pay him, because when Jack Welch dies, they'll get most, if not all, the money that they paid out to him back income tax free. Why do all these rich people, why does the Wall Street Journal consider it one of the most important benefits for rich people? And why aren't the middle class and the poor people taking advantage of the same way that rich people are? Isn't it true that almost no one likes life insurance because you have to die to use it, and since you're gone, you don't get to see its benefits? Did you know that's the old type of life insurance? Were you aware that new life insurance has ways of paying benefits while you're still living? What happens if something happens to one of you and you don't die? What happens if after a heart attack or maybe a stroke or cancer or some other types of things that would debilitate you and that are going to cost you money and cost you income? Isn't there still a need for money if something like that were to happen? Do you have the new kind of life insurance that pays you if something like that happens and you don't die? Isn't that important too? Do you have enough protection for your family if something bad happened to you or your spouse? If your kids are grown, do they have enough protection? If the loss of a spouse equates to more than $100,000 a year in 97 hours a week of work, does having a couple $100,000 of life insurance, does that seem like it would fit the bill to replace that need? I meet with people all the time and they've got a stay-at-home spouse. Oh, he or she doesn't need insurance because they're not bringing income into the family. Well, yeah, they are. You just aren't seeing it because all of those services and everything that they're doing have to be paid for one way or another. This just happens to be a mother or a father doing their family duty and therefore foregoing their income to be able to do that. So are you sure that you've got enough protection for your loved ones? If you're not sure, what are you going to do about it? Is there ever a time you wouldn't want your loved ones to be better off financially after you're gone? I don't care how old you are. As long as you've got heirs, a spouse, kids, grandkids, great-grandkids, is there ever a time that after you were gone, you wouldn't want them to be better off financially? If not, why would you ever be without life insurance? Does that make sense? All right, so if you'd like to have a conversation, maybe explore some different options, maybe options you probably have never heard of. Now, look, if you want to do this, I'll promise you these things. First, we're not going to talk for more than 30 minutes unless you want to do that. All right? Nothing's going to be for sale during this conversation. All right? We'll talk about your situation. I'll ask you a bunch of questions, and we'll see if there's maybe a need to look into things further. And if you decide you want to do that, great. If not, that's fine too. You'll have the option to be able to do it on your own or check back with your current financial professional. When we're done talking, you're going to walk away knowing a lot more about your situation, where you are, where you need to go. You'll even have some ideas on how to get there. So it's kind of doesn't that sound like a win-win type situation for everyone involved? So if you're ready to do that, you get my contact information up there on the screen. Call my direct line. That's the best number to get me at. Email me. We can even schedule this for an online appointment to make it easier for you. That way, if you don't like what you're hearing, heck, just hang up on me. That's fine. I understand. So, but thanks for tuning in. If you found value in this, wouldn't everyone find value in this information? I mean, don't we all care about our loved ones? Seriously? I mean, I know I'm playing on heartstrings here, but come on, folks. I would much rather do that and have you think about it and then become prepared. So if something bad does happen, that if your loved ones are taken care of, isn't that what you want too? So, as I said, if you found value in this, please share the link with your friends, families, coworkers, anyone you care about. And please, give me a holler. Let's talk. Let's just have a conversation. Let's see if what we do, if it's different than what you've got now. And if different, better isn't, or different isn't always better, but better is always different. All right, so let's take a look and see if we might be able to help you out and put you in a much better situation and make your family safer. And, hey, maybe I'll release some stress from your life. So thanks for tuning in. Talk to you next week.